This is the Patriots Prayer Podcast. It's a tremendous show, one of the greatest shows in the history of the world.
This is Bryson Gray, and you are watching the Patriots Prayer.
Soon on the Patriots Prayer Network. Thank you all.
America's falling, they all say. Gather the faithful now and pray. The Patriots Prayer. The Patriots Prayer. All the wicks are trimmed, oil is filled to the brim. I haven't changed yet somehow. I'm the radical now. America's falling, they all say. Gather the faithful now and pray. The Patriots Prayer.
So, welcome everyone to the Patriots Prayer once again on actually what it's been feels like a Monday and a Tuesday combined all in one, to be honest with you. But it's a big news day. For everyone who didn't catch it earlier, you missed Ann Funder's show. Go back and watch it. It was an amazing show. She had some great guests. But we have a great guest here, of course, my co-host, the Native Patriot, Maurice himself. And we're welcoming Jason Williams. Jason, tell the guys who you are. Tell them a little bit about yourself.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys. I'm just a regular dude from Georgia that loves America. I actually own a social media company and a couple other companies. For the last year, we've been working with Vote for America to get out conservative voters and turn this country around. So, yeah, not just a regular person that got fed up, had enough.
Sounds like
Well, I'll
us.
tell you
huh,
what,
Maury?
Yeah, I was just about to say that. I was like, man, you sound like, I mean, me, a lot of my following, most of them kind of woke up during 2020 and have started trying to figure out how to speak out and how to get people inspired to actually participate in our voting system and trying to fix the country. So,
Well, dude,
I get
it's
it,
going
man.
to take all of us, right? And the voter apathy, those days are over, right? And as conservatives, it's not enough for us to just go vote anymore. We're facing people who are better funded than us. They're better organized than us. They have a minion army that's working in 7 states and 12 counties ballot harvesting. We've got to get involved. It's, just going to vote enough, like, great, you've never been to jail before. Well, you're not supposed to go to jail. You don't get a cookie for that. Well, I voted. Well, you're supposed to vote. You don't get a cookie for that, right? At this point, dude, we've got to all get involved. And changing America is as simple as each one of us finding one person that didn't vote last time. We all know that one person, and it's pretty simple. They cannot mathematically overcome an army of patriots and mothers and fathers that love this country when we all stand up and speak with one voice.
That's right. That's right. And we had taken the time the other day, Maurice and I, at this little private event when Trump was here in town, to highlight voteforamerica.org. And it's something that's easy enough to get behind. Guys, we can't win if we show up. If everyone shows up, we cannot lose. It's not. We know, for one, look, what Trump did is in his numbers in 2016. Excuse me. Was more than doubled in. Well, not double, but it was like what? What was the percentage? It was crazy. It was much more, right? 70 some million votes, and yet he still lost. Everybody can surmise why, and we're on some of those networks right now that won't let us talk too much about why. But guys, we need to make this one too big to rig, and how you do it is exactly what he said. You go get people who haven't been involved and get them to get people who've not been involved, and we all show up. I don't give a damn if you have to rent a bus and drive them, but you go, you show up, bring grandma, bring grandpa, bring everybody.
Well,
Get the church, get everyone.
Well, what you're saying is very, very important. And when I say get someone to go vote, I'm not talking about Aunt Pam that votes. She's voted every time since she was 18, right? you know, you and Aunt Pam going to vote together, that saves gas, right? We're not trying to save gas. We're trying to save America. You and Aunt Pam go load up grumpy Uncle Steve that hasn't voted in 2 cycles and haul his ass to the polls. And anything short of a federal kidnapping charge, you do whatever it takes short of getting a federal kidnap. Like, if that's, hey, I want to take you to get something to eat afterwards. We're going to go to the range afterwards. We're going to grab a beer afterwards. But everybody knows one person. It's that simple.
Yeah.
And
I mean, this is
a trip to Golden Corral will do that for most people.
Right. Yeah.
This is one of the things that I've really been trying to push, because as soon as I heard about this, I mean, it's one of the most simple ways in most states. There's a couple states where you can't register to vote. I'm not sure which ones, but I know it's only a handful. But if you're not registered to vote, there's so much talk online about civil war and the fantasies that people have about that. And in all reality, a civil war would be horrible for everybody around you, for your mother, for your friends, for yourself, for your children. Nobody wants that. You may think that like there's always some fantasies that play through like right wingers' heads, and they like start pounding their chests online. They're like, "Well, we got all the guns." And I'm like, "Yeah, but guns don't matter if you don't have food or water."
People who talk about stuff like that have never seen the realities and the harshness of war, and
Exactly.
you know, it's you know that's stupid. But I mean, is the country on a brink? Yeah, it is. I mean, we're at a crossroads, and it's time that we do something. And I want to say this. I mean, I get this a lot when I talk to people. You know, well, I don't know anybody that's not registered to vote. Well, do you hunt? I mean, if you hunt, there's almost 10 million hunters in America that aren't registered to vote, that don't vote. Do you go to church? Over 50% of evangelicals didn't vote last time. So if you hunt or you go to church, you know somebody, and you don't have to go sit in the Walmart parking lot to find them or outside the dollar store. You've talked to them in the last 2 days. I mean, you know this person. But again, you get a lot of people that are disaffected. They spend millions of dollars per cycle trying to convince us that our vote doesn't matter. You'll see these bots in the comments, whatever. You ever heard a purple-haired freak or a cat lady saying her vote doesn't matter? But, you know, you've heard a gun owner or a veteran saying my vote doesn't matter. And this time around, I don't care what you think. You're going to vote. Drag them to the polls.
Yeah. I think people need to be educated on how many times things came down to a single vote. Or, oh, man, I wish I remembered the name of the state. But I ran a story. It's in a podcast from some time ago earlier in the year where people got together and recalled their entire legislature and threw them all out because of the power that people actually have. We don't practice that because we don't know it. It's like they don't teach civics anymore in school. People don't understand why it's so important to know who's your county supervisor, who's on your city council, who's the, you know, all these, you know, school board. You know how many people run unopposed in these positions? And these are the positions that set the policy for your city, state, district, whatever the case is. These are the people that do that. So a lot of times what happens is congressmen and senators at a much higher level know this kind of information. So they tell people, hey, go run for that office. And then they control everything. And the regular people wonder why nothing happens. It's because we need regular people to run. We need the average Joe to get into office with his complaints, his life experience, and say, these are the things we're tired of. No. And that's what we need. That's what we need.
In your opening clip, there's a video of Maurice shooting. I recognize that from Matt Carricker's range day. Like there's a video in there shooting, right? Brandon Herrera was there at that range day. The dude lost by 407 votes. Like it's crazy. And he'd never had any experience running before. He got outspent 10-1. And when the early votes came in, Herrera was down 12 percentage points. And a day of voting, like he made it all the way up to 407 votes. Well, in Texas 23 that day, they had severe thunderstorms and 3 tornadoes. So I'm not saying that there was enough votes had the weather not been terrible for him to win, but that's how close it is. I mean, it gets right down to just a few people. It had, you know, it did not take a lot for Brandon to win that race if everyone had just gone out and voted.
Same thing, I believe, with Jamison Ellis as well. He almost dethroned. He almost dethroned Crenshaw, and Crenshaw spent millions So yeah, it's but the
I
people.
mean,
I think
it
people are
was
getting
it
tired.
was the same thing. It was the same thing with Brandon Herrera. I
Yeah,
mean, I'm surprised that he wasn't able to pull it back. I mean, 400 votes, man.
407 votes. Tony
Oh.
Gonzalez paid his political consultant more money than Brandon Herrera spent on his entire campaign, and lost by 400. Brandon Herrera will win the next time he runs.
His
Yeah,
political
I think
consultant
Jameson
was
Ellis will too.
horrible.
Who is this? Who's the political consultant? What are you talking about?
Tony Gonzalez, who ran against Brandon Herrera, paid his political consultant more money than Brandon spent in his entire campaign. He was outspent 10-1
And
and
if
lost
you
by
saw
407 votes.
if you saw the online presence of Tony Gonzalez, it was miserable.
Yeah.
Every single time he was getting ratioed, and I think maybe in a way that gave people a sense of false hope, because every time he had posted online, he was getting blasted. But for some reason, all those people, maybe not all of them, right? A substantial amount of people that were blasting him online either couldn't vote because they weren't in that district or didn't show up. Because 400 people, I mean, there definitely should have been enough to overcome that gap. And that should be a lesson that we need to take into this next election when it comes to the, the actual presidential and then all the way down the ticket. And this is going to be the finale of who actually runs this country for the next 4 years. If we don't learn
what you
from
just
this,
said was right.
Right. And
Yeah,
let
I
me.
Complacency of thinking Trump has it locked in because he's more popular, because he's actually the good guy in this, and he really is. You got the iconic picture with him telling everyone to fight, and everyone's like, it's over. He got shot for the country. Kamala has no chance. That's dangerous. That's dangerous.
Let me clarify something really quick. Vote for America. We do not endorse candidates. That's any comments that I make about a particular candidate, or it's my own personal thoughts tonight. But when I wrote Vote for America, I had my sister, the girl that helps me, she was gone, and my sister's typing everything up and getting it together. She's like, but Jason, everybody doesn't know one person. And I'm like, really? She's like, everybody go to church with voted, all the school teachers voted. I'm like, well, how about your daughter and son-in-law that were on vacation in Hawaii for 10 days and forgot to vote before they went? Like, you really don't. She's like, you're right. Everybody does know one person. And, I'm telling Frank and Cindy Morris, like lifelong friends of mine, like everybody knows one person. And Cindy's just arguing. They don't know one person. And Frank's like, Jerry and Cindy live across the street. They don't vote. Everybody knows one person.
I mean, just imagine that you can double
a lot more than one.
Yeah, you don't even have
that's true.
if 3%, if 2% of the people actually adopt this message, get involved to find one person, not only do we win in a Tea Party sized landslide. These races are so close. Tim Sheehy's race in Montana will be decided by 6,000 votes. That's not a lot of votes. I want to say, what was it? Laura Loomer's contest in Colorado was like 27 votes or something. But these contests, the margins are so small that if just 2% of the people that hear our voices do what we're asking them to do, we'll actually send 50, 60 representatives up there. It does us no good to send 15 new people up at a time. The swamp divides and conquers them. We have to send enough people up there at one time that they can pack together, hold their ground, and say, hey, enough of this is enough. We're not going along with the status quo. So Vote for America's goal is to create a movement where mothers and fathers and gun owners and hunters turn out in numbers never seen before, because everybody's tired of it. America
That's the revolution. You're describing the revolution, the one that actually needs to be fought, has to be fought at the voting booth. Guys, because I said it earlier, and what I'm getting ready to say is my own opinion. It's Eddie's, it's not Maurice, it's not Jason's. And I believe this with all my heart. As much as I want to avoid any conflict or fighting or whatever, you're either going to vote now or fight later. Take your choice. Which one is it? Because if we lose this election, we're not voting our way out of communism. It's not going to happen.
Vote your way in, but you'll shoot your way out. Yeah.
Exactly right. So, guys, if you actually give a damn about this country, your kids, your grandkids, their grandkids, and so forth, show up. Because if you don't, the outcome is going to be something you never imagined. you never imagine. You know, they have this saying, Jason, and they keep saying it over and over again: strength through joy.
Yeah.
And if anyone just wants to go Google strength through joy, you'll find out this was a Nazi saying. These are the same people that are putting DEI in the workplace and basically telling workplaces how they must run themselves. They're dictating business from the highest level. Now Kamala's talking about price control. These are all fascism tenets, right? These are all tenets of fascism. Censorship, tenets of fascism. When Elon Musk was interviewing Donald Trump, they were famously, openly saying, can't anyone stop this? Does anyone not see? You have to be blind, deaf, and dumb to not see the similarities between the left and the Nazi party, because they are there. And I'm not just using it as a euphemism, the way they like to describe Donald Trump in that. That's not what this is. This is them actually doing things that coincide with the way that the Hitler regime did things.
Well,
and
I've actually been criticized multiple times by comparing fascism and communism, because they're like, well, that's a right and left wing thing, like those are
no,
different.
it's not.
And it's like, okay, but have you heard of the horseshoe theory, where basically the extremes come around and virtually meet? Because authoritarianism, fascism, communism, what it is the centralization of power, and they always tend to kind of do the same thing. So there's not much of a difference between the two. So when we talk about Kamala Harris advocating actual communism, price control, and gun buybacks, which is actually mandatory gun buybacks, so it automatically, who knows how many people would actually be felons just overnight.
I want to give a shout out to Robbie Starbucks and what he started. Mad respect for that dude. I want to give a shout out to Jack Daniels and Lowe's for dropping their DEI policies. And you're about to see an avalanche of these companies drop these policies. They've had enough. And
Harley Davidson did too.
Well, Harley Davidson got exposed, right? And they really got lit up. And Robbie has created a movement to where companies are now saying, hey, being exposed is worse than BlackRock or Vanguard downgrading my stock, right? So they're going ahead and getting ahead of this, and they're dropping it. And there's two sides to this, right? You think, yes, it's great that people will be hired based on their qualifications. But the other side of this ESG scoring that they put in place, that these companies, they don't want to do this, but they're required to donate to 501c3s. They're required to participate in DEI. They're required to do all this stuff. There's hundreds of millions of dollars that are given to 501c3s that are used for these voter drives on the left that companies are being forced to donate because of the ESG scoring from BlackRock and Vanguard. And we're finally seeing the companies saying they've had enough of it. Lowe's dropped today. Jack Daniels was the other day. Mad respect to both Lowe's and Jack Daniels, and every other company out there should drop this immediately. And again, this cuts off the funding that they use to drive voters to the polls.
Well, there's also another scary thing that I don't think a lot of people, are talking about, or they realize how bad it actually is and what it would mean for the average person that has money in a 401k or just buys regular stock and it's called unrealized capital gains.
Oh, yeah.
And they want to go after it. You want to tell them what it is, Jason?
So Kamala, one of the proposals that she has is that you're going to have to pay taxes on unrealized capital gains. And not only is it just your stocks, they're talking about going after your house. Let's say, for example, your house, since you've owned it, has gone up 3 times in value. They're wanting you to, even though you haven't sold your house, you're wanting to stay there forever, they're wanting you to pay tax on that. They're wanting you to pay tax on stocks that you haven't sold yet. Well, what happens if the market crashes in 3 years and the value's not there and you're paying tax on this? Like, unrealized capital gains tax is the most ridiculous thing. I mean, it's that is straight communism.
Yeah.
And so, they say, oh, it's not going to be about, people who make under this amount. But all of a sudden, when you realize that
they lied, they told that lie before.
Yeah,
exactly.
You remember if you like your doctor, you can keep your doctor. Remember Joe Biden is the smartest person ever. The vaccine works. It's going to protect. Like how many lies do they have to tell in the mainstream media to get called in before people realize, wait a minute, we're just being manipulated. This is a Hollywood script these people are writing. None of it is true. They're just manipulating us. And, they didn't talk about border security. They haven't talked about inflation. They haven't talked about any of this stuff till now. All of a sudden, it's election time. We're 6 months out, and they start talking about how inflation is important to them and the border and bringing down gas prices. These people don't care. They do not care about you. They simply want your vote.
They talked about funding the border wall 7-8 months ago. Not 1 square inch of border wall has been built, but they did it so they could effectively say that they were trying to make it look like they were trying to stand against the onslaught of illegal immigration taking place at our border, but they haven't done one single thing about it. You know what made me sick was during the DNC, they brought that border guard up there, and I don't know the guy's name. I got to go back and find his name out, but he said that Kamala Harris went so far as to go down into Mexico and fight the people coming over from there and all this. Well, let me tell you, they not only didn't they not do that, but they actually went so far as to hire other NGOs to go down on the other side of border and start proselytizing and getting people to vote for. They literally were putting out propaganda and signs and things saying, when you get to the United States, make sure you vote for Biden so that the border can stay open.
Right.
Literally, I have the actual, I have it here somewhere on the computer. I'll look for it while we're talking, but I actually have the,
it was part of the instructions on how to get these illegal or criminal aliens through the border. Is they were giving them instructions on what to say to become an asylum seeker, right? They were actually instructing them before they came over. But part of that deal was also make sure you continue to vote for Joe Biden. I mean, that was part of the deal, vote Democrat because we're the ones actually helping you. We're the ones who care about you. Even though I think it came out today or recently that there was over 300,000 missing children. The previous number that we had was 80,000 kids. That was like 2 years ago. Now it's above 300,000.
320 some odd thousand children, and they don't know where they are.
Yeah. So I don't see how they can possibly run on that we care about your children if they allowed 300,000 that we know of to be trafficked into the country, into known sex slave rings, into known sweatshops, and now we have no account for them at all.
This is completely coordinated. It's just like the defund the police. They all were, all for defund the police. We've seen the increase in crime, and now they're all claiming that they weren't for defund the police. But I have a pretty interesting story for our listeners tonight. I was in Medellin, Colombia about 6 weeks ago, and I was talking to my tour guide. And, how's the, whatever. He said, well, 10 years ago we had some violence. And when Pablo, we had some violence. And he says, 2 years ago we had a lot of violence here. He said, the Venezuelans came, said we had about half a million Venezuelans on the streets everywhere in Medellin. And he said, all the criminals and the gang members were here and they were robbing and stealing from people. And I'm like, really? And he said, yes, it was really bad. I said, well, what happened? He said, well, the cartel caught a bunch of them and cut them up in pieces and put them in bags and set their heads on top of the bags on the corners and put signs saying if anybody else gets robbed or stabbed or whatever, it's going to be 100 people next time. And he said in 2 weeks, all the criminal gangs had left Medellin and were headed toward Panama. And today they have about 70,000 Venezuelans still in Medellin. And he was telling me how that he understood the people's plight and he felt for them. But those 70,000 people were taking jobs super cheap and were driving down labor cost in Medellin, Colombia. And it was very interesting to me to hear a regular tour guide who has nothing to do with American politics describe exactly what's happening here in the U.S. and how illegals drive down wages on the working class at the bottom, and the fact that they recognize that the gangs and the criminals that had been let out of jail in Venezuela were in Medellin. They've now transited through Panama and to the U.S., the very thing that some people have been saying all along.
So this is a document that if you just go just south of our border, anywhere, you'll see these on all the poles, trees, inside porta potties, everywhere. You'll see these signs hanging. And when you translate this sign It says, hello, migrants, right? Essentially vote for Biden so that the border will stay open. This what this is. Matter of fact, I'll for guys, if you go to at the Patriots Pray, I'll actually post this there so you can see it and distribute it, because people should know this is what's going on. This is what they're doing. And they have no intentions of shutting that border down. If you go back and you look at some of Biden's earlier speeches before he even got elected, he said it's going to happen. The migrants are going to outnumber Americans. It's going to happen. He gives this long speech where he just accepts it. This is what's going to happen. You're just going to have to accept it. And the problem is that they're not just not listening to our laws when it comes to immigration. They're bastardizing the asylum laws, and they're not following them, because the asylum laws clearly state that you must go to the closest third country. We're receiving migrants from Pakistan, Afghanistan, Iran, China, busloads from China. Now, my question is if you got, first of all, if you were able to leave China, which is not an easy task. You dumbass. So if you're able to leave China, which is not an easy task to get a visa to leave, and then you're able to go to Panama, wherever,
unless
make your way
they
there.
want to send you over.
Exactly my point. They chartered buses for these people. They're coming here for a very good reason. And then there's the infamous videos of the guy coming across the border telling the reporter, you don't know who I am yet, but you're going to know soon enough. And it turned out that guy was on one of the most wanted terror watch lists that we had, and he's still here in the United States. We haven't caught him. We haven't found him. Is he here because he wants a better life? No, he's not here because he wants a better life. God knows where he's going to pop up, what he's actually planning, but we all know it's nothing good. So we have a powder keg getting ready to blow up at any point in time, and that you can lay square at the feet of Kamala and Biden. That is a fact. We don't know when whatever's going to happen. We pray to God they catch it before it does happen, but there's no way these particular people are not here to cause such a bad thing to happen. That's the only reason they would come here.
100%. 100. And another thing a lot of Americans don't understand is that when they do the census, they're calculating the number of illegals, the number of people in your state. And
Correct.
It should be, and I don't have a problem with that to get the total number, but when you give out congressional seats, it should be based on citizens. It should not be based on the total number of people and illegals. So California would actually be 12, 14 seats less if they weren't counting all of the illegals. We've had hundreds of thousands, millions of people move from California because the policies were so bad. They've replaced these people, legal citizens, with illegals. And right now, if you removed illegals, you know, the Republicans would probably pick up 22, 23 seats, House seats in red states. That is one thing that needs to change.
Isn't it?
That 100% needs to
But then they
change.
tell you it's racist if you ask. It's racist to ask whether or not the person filling out the census paperwork is American or not. Like, you're not allowed to ask that question. Like, as far as how you count them, a number is a number, and that's exactly their plan. What do they call that? What do they call that, Maurice? That, remember we came across that some time ago, and it was like a CIA plan. It was written by a couple of college professors long time ago, how to overthrow the United States by overloading the welfare and with something in Clow and Breyer.
Oh, the Cloward Priven,
Cloward Piven. That's what it was.
Yeah, strategy.
Yeah, Cloward Piven strategy. Overload the welfare system, overrun law enforcement, overrun the border. Your medical facilities, hospitals can't keep up. You just can't pay these people enough. And then as a result, the country falls. And then the government has to step in for security purposes, take away everyone's freedom, all these types of things in an effort to keep the peace, which then turns into people standing in bread lines and all that, which is what happens when the price
that's
controls go into
definitely
effect.
coming. That's the thing, is that regardless of whether or not, and this is one thing that I stress with people, because a lot of the time, well, I would say that it's really easy to pin all of our problems on the people at the top. Right? Like Obama did this and Obama did that. And back in 2020, Trump didn't do enough to stop the tyrannical dictates from all these governors. And it's like, you guys need to understand that it wasn't Trump's fault that the governors had these tyrannical orders over people, and that the fact that the people listen, because you don't want a top-down dictator saying,
No.
dictating what each state does. The change had to come from the bottom up, and this is one of the problems that we've had with voting, is that people believe that somebody else is going to handle it, or somebody else should handle it. You guys, it is up to us. This is the thing that I've been stressing as much as I can, not only with voting, but if Trump, or I should say when Trump wins, the change is going to have to come from us. It's going to have to come from the bottom up. That's the only way that real change is enacted. You cannot ask for a top-down change, because that is going to be fascism and communism. Trump cannot fix all of our problems, even when he wins.
All he can do is foster the environment.
Level.
Yeah, but he can foster the environment to allow us to act.
Yes.
Right? To make it not so hostile for us as conservative men, women, maybe religious in nature, or whatever it is. Make the environment and the culture more what it was, because it's plain and simple today. We are not liked. They are allowed to espouse. I can have a Muslim go into an elementary school and talk about their culture. I've seen Buddhists. I've seen all these different types of people go into even transvestites going into an elementary school and be able to stand in front of children, read stories, do whatever. Have a pastor try to go in. Have someone from any Christian religious sect try to go in and speak to the kids. They're not having it. It's not an even playing field, and it's not a tolerant playing field. They love to promote tolerance, but the left is no longer the left. I put it to you that the right are the new liberals. We are the party of free speech. We are the party of individualism. We are not the party of cult mentality, gang mentality, of tribalism. We are not trying to fight racism with more racism, which is what they are actually trying to do. It's what CRT.
Hey, look at this. Look at this, right? Trump was a 90s Democrat. And
right.
Now he's the head of MAGA, right?
Mm-hmm.
RFK just endorsed Trump. He was a Democrat until a couple months
Still
ago.
is.
Tulsi Gabbard just endorsed Donald Trump, former Democrat, and they've pushed her out. Elon Musk, same thing. All of the reasonable Democrats have realized that there is something seriously wrong with communism, which I'm happy about.
Had the Democrats not rigged the primary, RFK would be their nominee right now. Like he is as Democrat as they come. He's actually one of the old Democrats. But had they not rigged the primary, people would have seen that Joe had dementia. RFK would have won the primary. He would have been their nominee. And now he is coming out. It took a lot for that dude to come out and say, hey, the Democratic Party has lost their way. Tulsi Gabbard was a prepresidential candidate, and she's come out and said the same thing.
4 years ago.
Yeah, 4 years ago. And if you look at Bill Maher, Bill Maher occasionally has some moments of sanity.
Cancel culture.
Yeah. But it's crazy, and nobody's coming to save you, people. Let me say this: I hear people all the time complaining about society. You are part of society. It is your job to shape things the way that you want it. Nobody's coming to save you. Donald Trump is not coming to save you. We all have to take responsibility for the place that we live, for the country that we love, and we've all got to show up and vote.
Well, here's the thing, right? And somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but here it is. There's a guy, and I wanted to get his name right, so I looked him up while we were talking. His name is Super Tuesday, Jason Palmer. Jason Palmer was the guy from America Samoa. He was the only one that the Democrats were not able to throw off of the ticket, and that ran against Biden. He beat him, and America Samoa did. I don't know how many people know that. Joe Biden lost to this one man. And here, I'll share my screen. I'll show you real quick who the guy is. But this guy never conceded his race, right? Never conceded the race to Biden. This is him. And as you see, unknown Democrat beats Biden in America Samoa's Democratic caucus, right? So since he never conceded the race, and it turns out that he won that election, or at least in that area, why in the hell isn't he automatically the nominee? Because Kamala never threw her hat in the ring. How does that work? It should be him.
I mean, they rigged this. They rigged this against RFK the same way they rigged it against Bernie Sanders. You know, Bernie Sanders would have easily beaten Hillary. They rigged it. And then this time around, they changed the order in which the states vote to make sure that Joe was the nominee. They hit him in the basement again. And again, they have not given the people of the Democratic Party have had zero choice. It's been the superdelegates and the Obamas that have picked who's going to run, you know, all the way back to Hillary, the last 3 elections. You guys are voting for nothing.
It's never been this blatant before.
Yeah.
Where you just hand someone delegates and they're just the pick. Like, I mean, like you just got christened. Like, that's not how we do things. People,
I've been thinking about this a lot and how people have switched over. And I think the majority of the base were desperate for anybody else but Joe Biden to actually be running. And so when the higher ups finally chose that it was going to be Kamala, the left was just incredibly happy that they had anybody else but Biden, because you can clearly see Biden is not there. And when it was that out front during the debate, and you could see clearly that, oh my gosh, this guy is just not there. I think they jumped on the Kamala bandwagon just by the simple fact that it wasn't Joe Biden, and they're desperate to beat Trump.
Or it was more nefarious, and they waited until the last minute because they knew at that point no one could do anything about it, so they could slide Kamala in there.
Well, they also knew that Kamala was incredibly unpopular. So if they just throw her in last minute and have her do the same playbook as they did with Biden back in 2020, which was hiding in the basement, not doing interviews, not doing debates, you know, basically just keep them away, out of the view. And as long as they have the media act like she's popular, then she might actually stand a chance.
We no longer have a free press, and I prefer that you
Exactly.
not refer to them as the media. I just call them the Democrats' instruments of propaganda at this point. And it's definitely, they knew that there was no way that Joe could beat RFK. They knew that Kamala could not beat RFK. And they knew RFK would not play ball with what's going along. They want that puppet, just like Joe has been. They were willing to put the nation's security at risk with a demented old dude that's a nice grandpa, I guess. I don't know, to keep power. They will do.
He's not a nice grandpa. He denied his granddaughter for the longest time just because her mother was a stripper.
The perception of a nice grandpa.
Strippers have babies too. They make great grandkids. You know?
Right. So here's what they did vote for, guys. Look at this.
Need to push back on this. There's no guarantee to free speech on misinformation or hate speech, and especially around our democracy.
Once again, and we say it all the time here, there is no such thing. We are not a democracy. We are a republic. We are not a mob rule country. And the thing is that when he says things like that, keep in mind, they are the arbiters on that side of what they believe to be true and not true. We've all suffered from this, especially the Patriots Prayer Podcast. We had a reach of well over 1 million people on Facebook. That immediately was taken 2 hours after we got monetized. If you go take a look at our views right now on YouTube, we do extremely well. Everywhere else, go to YouTube, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 views. Do you think that and then go back and look at some of the earlier views, 10,000, 8,000, 9,000 on lives. Why? Because they are shadow banning us. They're throttling our reach because they know our message is popular, but it's not the narrative that they want. So this is what needs to change. Section 230 is what gives these companies the right and the ability to discriminate against us based on our political views. And I had the opportunity to talk to Marjorie Taylor Greene briefly about it. And anyone else who will give me an ear, I'm going to talk about that thing because that's what hurts us the most. We need to change that law.
If you don't recognize the name Andrew Bailey, you need to get used to it.
Yeah, I know.
This guy is America's AG. He is going to go straight after the censorship issue. He's already going after the Biden administration for their coordination with big tech. That's a name that y'all need to pay a lot of attention to. Hopefully he'll be the next Attorney General of the United States. But on a side note, you guys need to check out Clout Hub. Clout Hub is an amazing platform. where they don't restrict you. They have about 3 million people who are conservatives and libertarians there. The views on Clout Hub, you might get 10,000 on YouTube. On Clout Hub, you'll get 500,000. But a great platform. Todd, the owner, libertarian, he has Vax Choice. It's one of the shows on there. But Clout Hub is a great place to put Patriots Prayer Network to actually reach people to see your message.
Well, that's interesting. I got to be honest.
I just went there right now, and I'm going to sign up for it as we speak.
Yep. Clout Hub's amazing. And I'll introduce you guys to the CEO and to the owner. But great people, and they don't allow porn. They don't allow, violence.
Well, I'm out. Then no.
Right. I know. I don't need you and Maurice's white dudes for Harris going on here, but free speech. They're huge free speech platform, and I think that you guys would be really, really great for them.
Yeah, I hadn't heard of this till now, so yeah, I'm glad. Thank you for letting us know about it. I'm literally sitting here signing up for this as we speak.
You don't have to be a member. You don't have to give your personal information, just an email address. They have about, I want to say 1.6 million members and accounts on Clout Hub, but they get around 3 million different individual users a day. They're just starting out, and great platform. So part Facebook, part YouTube. You can have your own channel, and again, they'll push your message out to their viewers.
Huh, how about that? Yeah, I'm down for that.
Yeah,
hey, one of the messages that I wanted to get out before I get out of here, because unfortunately, guys, I got to go run a service call, was that if you guys really want to help this movement, not only do you have to embody the values that you wish to see in this world, but you have to be able to hold your peers to a higher standard. Because right now, we're in the situation we're in because people have been sitting it out. I understand that conservatives, because I feel this too, conservatives in general want to be left alone. You want to live out in the woods. You want to be able to shoot your guns. And the thing that we've kind of let slide by is that if we don't participate in the voting process, if we don't participate in our community, if we don't hold people to those standards, then everything that we love will be taken from us. Because inch by inch, the left has consistently taken over every institution that we know of. The media, Hollywood, all of our entertainment, the funders of those entertainment industries have all been taken over because we have been sitting back believing that if I just get far enough away, it's not going to get me. We're at the point now where we cannot do that. We cannot have that standard, not just for us, but for our peers as well. So one of the messages that Jason puts out here that I fully agree with 100% is to have a plan ready, not just for yourself, but to get other people to vote. And we have to do this. It is paramount.
Yeah, I want to elaborate. I want to elaborate on that a little bit. And as conservatives, we do want to be left alone. We just want to raise our kids. We want to shoot our guns. But when we're divided, they're going to get you. They're going to come for you through regulation, taxation, whatever. When we're divided, they're going to get you. But for as much as we want to be left alone, and I hate what they stand for. I hate their DEI. I hate their assault on free speech. Like these people repulse me. Like it is like I cannot stand anything that they stand for. And we can live our lives. We can be left alone. All we have to do is take 1 hour every 2 and 4 years to show up the polls and crush these people, absolutely crush them. And then you know what? The other 365 days each year, whatever, we can live our lives. We can laugh at them on TV in the rain marching. We can see them out in the sun. We can laugh at them and they can march. They can wear their vagina hat. We can laugh at them and they can march. They can do whatever they want to do as long as we take 1 hour every 2 and 4 years to show up at the polls, crush them. We can go back to the house and do whatever the hell we want. We can raise our kids, we can shoot our guns, and we can laugh at them on the news. Like, look, and then you do that 2 cycles in a row, and all of a sudden they get demoralized and they go home. They take their ball and go home. And all we have to do is show up and absolutely crush them.
Yeah, and honest to God, if I ask people all the time, where's your line? Where's the line that they have to cross for you? That's just too far. Because I can't think of a line that hasn't been crossed. Care about your kids, they cross that line. You care about being able to have your rights as a parent, they cross that line. They crossed. I can't think of a line the left has not crossed. Censorship, crossed it. Privacy, you don't have it. They're spinning us into oblivion. They're setting up situations across the globe which your son or daughter may have to sacrifice their lives for the sake of these idiots that just, we're going to ceasefire in this area where there shouldn't be, and it's not our business. And we want war in an area where they want peace. It makes no sense. Joe Biden literally stepped in the middle of the Russian-Ukraine, what would have been peace talks, and sent Boris over there from I forget where the UK, and said basically, we're not going to send you no more money if you start talking peace. Why? Why would you do that? Knowing at any time,
for a fact that they had a separate agenda.
Yeah, but what I'm trying to do is figure out why in the world that makes sense to people. Why
they're told it is. They're told that it makes sense, and they want to. They instead of taking on the responsibility to figure out what it is, they trust that our institutions are doing well. America's still running, so I mean, why would they be lying to us like that? I've seen that mentality several times, and it's frustrating. But you guys, I have to get going. I have to get out of here. I love you. Thank you guys for watching so much. Tune in Wednesday at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Again, we will be having another show. I appreciate you guys. Like the podcast. Share it if you can. I have to get out of here. You guys can continue the conversation. Jason, thank you for coming on.
Maurice, awesome thank you.
I appreciate it. God bless.
God bless, brother. We'll talk to you soon.
See ya.
So, yeah, I mean, they literally took the time to put the kibosh on these peace talks. And at the same time saying they should continue, or they should stop the fight or get a ceasefire in Israel, where we still have 19 American hostages.
None of this would have happened if Donald Trump was president.
Joe
Biden was at the G7 or whatever, where he said, I mean, he's old and admitted he don't know what he's saying. Well, a little incursion would be okay. I mean, you basically gave Putin the green light. Not only that, he created the atmosphere where Putin felt like he had an advantage. When Joe Biden cut back our natural gas and our exports and everything, they were completely reliant. They figured, okay, Russia's thinking they've got to get our gas from us. They can't get it from the U.S. They created the circumstances for Putin to actually invade. It never would have happened if Trump was president. And we got 500,000 people dead.
And then
people are dead.
And then he turned around and gave $6 billion to Iran.
Yeah. Well, again, we had Iran isolated, where we had most of the nations out there. We had the Abraham Accords being signed, and the people of Iran are not bad people, right? They've got some terrible leaders.
The Islamic Republic and Iran are two different things.
That's totally different, right? And there's nothing
not like Palestine, where they're pretty much the same.
Yes, exactly.
I'm sorry, but they are.
That entire October the 6th, 7th, that would have never happened. That would have never happened if Trump was president. And
I believe
weak men cause hard times, and you're seeing that right now.
Exactly right. Weak men cause hard times, and you almost, as a guy who's I'm Gen X. I assume you're Gen X as well. We were a little bit tougher of a generation. We stood on our own 2 feet. We didn't have cell phones. We actually played outside. We learned to shoot BB guns and throw lawn darts and do all that other. We rode in the back of pickup trucks, standing up. We did things differently, man, and we were better for it, and we were tougher for it. I just think, what the hell is this world going to come to in 10, 15 years from now, when these kids are the ones at the helm?
There are no safe places in this world, and if as a parent you're raising your kid to think they're safe places, you're crippling your kid. I mean, life is a competition, and it doesn't matter if you're the cheetah and the gazelle, or you're the U.S. and China, or you're Joe the plumber versus whoever. life is a competition. And if you don't if you're putting your kids in some rec league where everybody gets a trophy and there's no winners and losers, no, you're crippling your kid. And
it's not a service.
don't shelter your kid. Allow your kid to fail. You'll learn more out of falling down and getting up again than you will out of a blowout where you beat somebody 40-0, right? But yeah, it's very sad to see what's happening. And there's nothing wrong with the kids. Kids are fun. It's the parents. It is the parents that are raising these kids this way.
And that's exactly like you brought up Bill Maher earlier. Pierce Morgan is the same way, right? Absolute liberal. There's no denying this guy is a liberal, but there's a difference between, I think, these guys and the Marxist, socialist, leftists that we see out there today. That's why we see oftentimes, I seen Pierce Morgan on an interview the other day where he had to stop somebody from saying Trump never talked about an abortion ban. You can not like the guy, but lying, you don't have to tell the lie. You don't have to go that far. And I respected it. I disagree with the guy vehemently on most policy issues when it comes to the world and how we govern a country. Absolutely. But I have to agree that, when you tell the truth is the same coming out of his mouth as it is coming out of mine. So the truth is the truth.
The truth is the truth.
It's just the truth. And it kind of helps us see the difference between those who are absolutely crazy and those who you can actually have a conversation with and agree to disagree in some cases. I want to play a quick clip from that earlier on in the debates that were happening. Tulsi Gabbard is addressing Kamala. This is one of the most classic clips there is because she just absolutely eviscerates her. Take a look at this.
Senator Harris says she's proud of her record as a prosecutor and that she'll be a prosecutor president, but I'm deeply concerned about this record. There are too many examples to cite, but she put over 1,500 people in jail for marijuana violations and then laughed about it when she was asked if she ever smoked marijuana. She blocked evidence. She blocked evidence that would have freed an innocent man from death row until the courts forced her to do so. She kept people in prison beyond their sentences to use them as cheap labor for the state of California. And she fought to keep cash bail system in place that impacts poor people in the worst kind of way.
Now, for me, there's nothing worse that you can do ever as a president, or excuse me, as a district attorney, and to keep knowingly keep somebody in prison for almost 2 decades. You knew the man was innocent. You had the evidence to exonerate him, and they had to sue you to get the evidence out of you. So that his name was Kenneth Cooper, but there were 3 other guys. Kenneth Cooper was just the one who made the news because his life was almost taken from him. He was on death row. She knew it. It did not matter to her. His life didn't matter to her. And this was a black man. Now, all of a sudden, she's black. She continuously tries to run on the fact that she's black. She stopped at a record store the other day, Jason, and had news cameras follow her to the record store so she could go in and buy some Sam Cooke albums and some Coltrane and all this and come out and, look, everybody, I'm black. Look at the music I listen to. It is absolutely ridiculous.
Andy Frisella is like an American classic. He's like Dave Chappelle. And the other day, on his podcast, he was talking about these Democrats. Every time they want to appeal to the black community, they run to somebody's house and eat some fried chicken and watermelon. And it was the funniest thing you've ever seen, right? And they think that actually it's the same thing as her running into the record store. And it's just all fake. It's literally all fake. And the media continues to push this craziness out. And beyond me why people still buy it. I have zero trust in the media whatsoever. And I trust neither side of the media, by the way. I don't listen to the left or the right. I don't trust any of them.
They posture. They walk up to the line of conservatism, even on the right. They walk up to the line, but they don't take that next step. I wasn't going to call it out, but I'll call it out. One of our podcast mates, I'll leave her name out of it. Right? Everyone knows who I'm talking about, but I'm not going to say her name. She was on Laura Ingram's show the other day. And she started talking about the fact that Kamala's grandfather, great-grandfather, and her grandfather early on were slave owners. Now, I'm talking about like they owned a few. Like they owned a lot of slaves in Ireland and in Jamaica. They were in the major slave owners. one generation prior to this woman being born, right? If this were Donald Trump,
It'd be all over the news.
He would not be able to own a McDonald's, much less run for office. He would be eviscerated. I mean, he would be David Duke times 100. But this lady, who's never ever touted the fact that she has any African blood in her whatsoever, not ever. She was the first Indian senator ever elected, all of that. But you want to now tout the fact that you have African American blood in you, very little, by the way. But you have this blood in you, but you don't want to tout the fact that only one generation ago you owned several. And not just did you own black slaves, but she owned white slaves as well. Not her grandfather, to be more specific. Nobody try to fact check me here. But you understand what I'm saying. But when we were in the midst of trying to deliver this message and get that information out there on Fox, let's change the subject. Let's go somewhere else. Because they don't want to push the issue. They don't go the extra mile. They walk right up to the line and they stop.
Right.
And that's the reality of conservative networks.
And this is the thing. I don't have any white friends. I don't have any black friends. I don't have any gay friends or any Muslim friends. I have a lot of friends that happen to be white, black, gay, or Muslim. I don't classify my friends. And her whether she's Indian or black or whatever, I could really care less.
No one cared until she said it.
Yeah,
if she would open her mouth.
Yeah, other than the fact that she uses it one way when it thinks it benefits her here because there's a large amount of Indian population, but yet she uses another way. And that's the problem. And, she didn't get anything passed as a senator. You look at Oakland, her hometown. I mean, her policies really started the whole problem that they've got out there now where they're not prosecuting criminals. She's never accomplished anything. Like, please name me. You see all these interviews with people, name me your favorite Kamala accomplishment, right? They can't. They want to go to talking about how bad Trump is. And the really funny thing about Trump is if you ask people to name the 3 things that they hate about Trump the most of them, 90% of the people, the 3 things that they hate the most will be a lie that was generated by the media that's not even true.
They're still telling them the things that were debunked by Snopes. They're still talking about it.
They don't know because they've seen it on the media so many times and they've been told so many times that they now believe the lie. And then if they go to the trouble to look it up, where do they go? They go to Google, who repeats the lie on the first 4 or 5 pages. Nobody actually goes somewhere else to look. And 94% of your website clicks, just so people know, happen before you ever scroll on the page. Whatever comes up on that page, 94% of the website clicks happen right there. And that's
Google. Yeah. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
And that's where purple-haired freaks. When you see this person screaming at the top of their lungs, it seems totally irrational, like on television, and you see them just screaming, yelling. You have to understand that person in their mind believes that they are fighting for America the same way you and I fight for free speech or we fight for the Second Amendment, because that person was told it in high school, and then they got it on social media, and then a college teacher got it, and maybe they saw some clips here, and they finally got curious enough to look it up themselves. And what did they do? They went to Google, right? And Google repeated the lie. So now they've done their own research, and oh my God, so they in their mind believe that they're fighting to save America because they've fully been indoctrinated and they've done their research on Google. And if there's one company that needs to be broke up, and I can name a bunch of them that need to be broke up, the very first one should be Google.
Well, they lost the antitrust lawsuit.
They did. Yes, they lost the first part of it,
So I mean, what I tell people all the time is take a look at what happened in Twitter. When Elon Musk bought Twitter, it was one of the most historic things ever. I don't think people understand the depth of what actually took place there. He gave us a place to where we can freely exchange ideas when nobody else would. Facebook wouldn't let us do it. You can't do it on YouTube. Google, as you say, they game the algorithm against you. You can't. Rumble. Over there, Chris Pavlowski has done something amazing there, which is why on Rumble is where the Patriots Prayer Network lives. And I tell people that all the time. Where I tell people the home base is for the Patriots Prayer Network is on Rumble. Because
so I'm going to give you the perfect Twitter X example right now. So when Donald Trump gave his speech in Charlottesville, for a minute and 24 seconds, he condemned the KKK and white supremacy and white Nazis and everything.
Yeah, I
And then
remember
he
the
makes
news
his
conference.
statement about there were some good people there were some good people out there.
And he
what does
clarified.
and that's right. Exactly. But what the news media played was that clip of him saying there were good people in the crowd. And if you ask anyone today where they get the Donald Trump is racist from, it's remember Charlottesville. They just hammer you. And none of them have seen the full clip of what he actually said.
Exactly.
Now, fast forward several years to where Trump was talking about the bloodbath that was going to happen with the car manufacturers if Biden got in office and Chinese factories were allowed to be set up in Mexico. Well, the media thought, okay, we can paint him with this bloodbath thing the same way we did with Charlottesville. And you saw all these talking heads, the anchors, bloodbath, the same thing over and over. And they would have painted him with that, except Elon on X. And it was immediately beat down by X. And then, well, it's the terminology that he uses. He uses this bloodbath terminology. And then all of a sudden, here comes the montages of the media using the word bloodbath. And X put it out there. The only reason that they don't think that Donald Trump was calling for a bloodbath if he lost is because of Elon Musk.
Exactly.
They would have painted him the same way with that narrative that they painted him with the Charlottesville narrative. And Elon Musk is hands down probably man of the decade.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I'm getting at. That's exactly what I'm getting at. What he did was so historic. I don't think people truly understand the significance of what he did. Now, here is the answer to Kamala that they cannot seem to get around, and it's our own Michaela Montgomery. And listen to what she says.
They don't want to talk policy. They just want to use propaganda to steal your vote. The left is trying to tout this woman as a savior for the black community, but all she's done is hurt the black community since she came into the game. See, the first step in destroying the black community is to dismantle the black family. So aside from her record as a prosecutor, why don't we ask Mrs. Willie Brown if Kamala Harris cares about black families?
Now, I got to say, I don't know who ever had added that last part, but good job. Good job. Absolutely great job. And I mean, it got a lot worse than that. I'm going to play the whole thing, but she really did a number on her. And they don't have an answer for this. And I found myself defending Michaela quite a bit through the last couple of months or so. But I found out, you got to understand, this is a little girl that used to sleep on my couch and watch scary movies with my daughter in third grade. I mean, I have a maternal instinct that kicks in when people say things about her, and it just gets under my skin probably more so than I probably should let it, because she can handle herself. Oh my God, can she handle herself? And she's such a person. She will walk into a room of people she has no idea who they are and just become the room. She's just that person. Hey guys, how is everybody? And you're just like, what the hell are you doing?
I've been lucky enough to talk to her on the phone a couple of times, and she's absolutely awesome.
It's who she is. It's who she is. And we're glad to have her and very happy to have her along with Ann Funder, Madeline Brain pretty soon. And so all those women who basically brought the house down surrounding either the DNC or the rallies or whatever. But these women are the women that the left don't want you to hear, because they all have stories and perspectives that basically undo the narrative that the left has been pushing out for everyone since, the beginning of this, since even before the end of Trump's presidency. And it's sad.
Yep. Riley Gaines is absolutely amazing, and everyone's familiar with her. I'm lucky to call her a friend, and
I've talked to her before.
Yeah, she's great. I talked to her today, texted her while she's on the plane. She was testifying here in Georgia against Georgia Tech. But her speech the other day.
I love that college, by the way. Dennis Scott, Kenny Anderson, Dennis Scott. You guys are too young to know what I'm talking about. But Dennis Scott and Kenny Anderson used to be the team. Yep. They were a buzz shot. Remember at the buzzer with the Dennis Scott. Yep. Listen, we're going way back, guys. We're early 90s. early 90s, back when Duke had like Christian Laettner, Bobby Hurley,
Yep.
Grant Hill. Ooh, that was
Yep.
the heyday. That was the heyday.
Riley's comment the other day in Arizona when she said, "A vote for Harris is a vote against your daughter's future."
Ooh,
And if you have a daughter that plays in middle school or junior high or high school athletics, what they have done by allowing biological males to compete against them is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, like,
Absolutely.
where did we come to that this is even a conversation? You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? Like,
that's the same thing I said.
Wouldn't even be a freaking conversation. But Riley Gaines is an amazing individual. Kudos for her for standing up. And the thing about Riley is she didn't want to do any of this. None of this. She's a regular person. She just wanted to swim at Kentucky. Like, all she wanted to do is swim at Kentucky. That's it.
I don't think any of us wanted to exactly do this. We're put at risk. Listen, we've had people that were literally being used by the feds. And I don't know if I've told you this story. We had a J6er that contacted us, wanted to do an interview, and told us his whole sob story. We looked him up. He was legitimate, or so we thought. And then come to find out that the guy was literally working for the feds and wanted to come on the program and say he was sitting in his prison cell, Jason. So we literally did an interview with this guy sitting on his prison bunk when he had said he had a cell phone that he snuck in the prison. So I'm like, hell yes, I want this exclusive. Who the hell wouldn't? This guy's in his prison cell, and I'm going to be interviewing him about J6. Come to find out, he's had that cell phone through 4 facilities. So he didn't really have the cell phone. It was given to him to do exactly what he was doing, which is spread the propaganda to make it seem like the J6ers were there to actually take the people's house, like the intention was to be violent and what everyone thought was actually true. And as he started telling this story, this is exactly the way that he was telling it. And then he gave us the name of a news organization who was helping him. Now, what he didn't understand, what he didn't know, was on the back end, we had other J6ers and people in law enforcement that contacted us and was like, hey, there's some things about this guy you don't know, and started giving us the intel. And then to kind of substantiate the story was that news organization that they said was helping this guy and spreading these falsities contacted us out of the blue all of a sudden with a nice little DM. Hey, we got a story you guys might want to run. They've never contacted us before. We had no contact with them whatsoever. But when they saw us cut off all dealings with their boy in prison, supposedly, they started contacting us, wanting us to run their stories. And we want no part of this crap. But the fact that the federal government or whoever was handling who said, call the Patriots Prayer and do this, we're very flattered that you would even think of us, but it didn't work.
Well, as someone who was at January 6th, I was there from 5 o'clock in the morning. I listened to all of the speeches. There was nothing about, the people who were there from all across the country, some of the most amazing people that you would meet from just about any state that you could imagine, and listen to all of the speeches. At no point did Donald Trump incite violence, anything like that
at all.
When the speeches were over, the girl that was with me, her feet were killing her. She had to pee. The crowds were crazy, and we went back to the hotel. We watched everything, eating pizza in the hotel, but the vast majority of people who were there were just absolutely amazing Americans from all over the place.
They were yelling at the police officers, hey, why aren't you guys doing anything? Why aren't you doing something about this?
And I'll say this to the federal law enforcement officers out there. You
They're
took an
watching.
oath to you took an oath to the Constitution of the United States. And when, I don't care if it's the DOJ or who your superior is, when they're asking you to go to someone's house and question them about a social media post they made, you're breaking your oath. That is freedom of speech. If somebody's threatening somebody, hell yeah, go to their house. I'm all for that. But people have the right to express themselves. And just because somebody was at January 6th in a crowd full of amazing people, and I'm just going to tell you, there were hundreds of thousands of people that were there. But to follow them around on airplanes or go question them, or, this person owns 3 guns. Well, guess what? You're allowed to own guns, right? But any federal law enforcement officer, and there's some amazing, I want to tell you, there are some amazing officers that have stood up, that's been transferred, that's been moved, all kinds of stuff. These young guys that's just started their career.
Unlike Michael Byrd.
Yeah.
on Michael Byrd, who shot Ashley unjustifiably, protecting nobody, who got a promotion. I talked to Ashley's mom, and when you talk to a parent who's lost a child, there's just something about the pain and the way they talk and the look. And I just embraced her. I had to hug her. I was like, "Can I hug you?" I felt the need, because she was telling me this story, and there was just a fight in her eyes, and it was just you could feel it.
Had that been anywhere else on the street of St. Louis or whatever, there would have been writing everywhere that dude would be locked up for life, right? I mean, it's absolutely terrible. But the entire this is another thing. You never heard the news. You never heard anyone say no one at J6 was charged with insurrection until everybody was being charged with criminal trespass. Everybody was getting charged with criminal trespass. And then on Fox News one night, one of the commentators came up and said, "How can you say that Trump participated in an insurrection if none of the people that you're being charged, they're not being charged with insurrection, they're being charged with criminal trespass?" And then, like a light switch, everybody got, they started piling on charges of these people. And, to have these people in jail for years now and no trial, I mean, that is not America.
And look, and Enrique from the Proud Boys, a guy who wasn't even there. Yeah. He hung out the night before with Bryson Gray, who we had on the podcast, and they were kicking it together. Now, he was over in Bethesda, Maryland, which is, I'm from Baltimore. I can tell you firsthand, It's not very far. The two are very close. Matter of fact, Bethesda is between Maryland and DC, or Baltimore and DC. It's not, but he wasn't there. So why in the hell would he be given 22 years in prison? Because he would not say something off color about Donald Trump, which is what the FBI came to him with, and he refused to play along. And what he did next thing is get 22 years. That's crazy.
I mean, if you committed acts of violence against law enforcement officers, I don't have any use for that whatsoever. But these grandmothers and stuff that are walking through taking pictures like they're on a fifth grade tour or something to charge those people and to hold those people, that is not America. That is not the America that I grew up in.
Not America to charge people that are praying quietly in front of abortion clinics with the FACE Act and give them 5 and 10 years either. We've crossed the Rubicon from what we were to whatever the hell this is. And the only way to get back to where we were is a very intentional act by the citizens of this country. And what we're talking about is exactly right, exactly where I was going. The revolution is going to be fought from now until November. And that's you taking your ass to the voting booth and finding someone else.
Yeah, it's you finding one person.
Find one person.
Yep.
And I always say this again because I get it wrong all the time, right? So you find one person. Go ahead, you do it.
Here we go. Let me help Eddie with this.
There you go.
Everybody finds one person. Everybody. That's how you win an election. You want to change America? Challenge 4 of your friends to do the same thing. Vote for America. That's it. Find 4 of your friends. Y'all all find one person. That's how you change America.
And if we do that, guys, we cannot lose. We can't lose. They cannot win. And that's the revolution. That's the revolution we need to fight now. Because if not, God knows what kind of revolution we're going to have to fight later. Because like I said, you're not voting your way out of communism. That's not going to happen. It is impossible. I got one other clip I want to play for us real quick. Let's take a look.
Nuclear war than we ever have been before. This is one of the main reasons why I'm committed to doing all that I can to send President Trump back to the White House where he can once again serve us as our commander-in-chief. Because I am confident that his first task will be to do the work to walk us back from the brink of war. We cannot be prosperous unless we are at peace. And we can't live free as long as we have a government that is retaliating against its.
So, I you know what, and I'm going to be honest, and everyone on here knows, I questioned Tulsi, the switch. I was so shell-shocked from like Mike Pence and all these people that were supposedly on our side that turned out to be completely the opposite of everything they ever said they were. especially as I started doing a lot of my digging into Crossfire Hurricane and figuring out who a lot of those shadowy figures were behind the scenes. Now that all the documentation has been declassified, Mike Pence was on a lot of that paperwork. In fact, I could be a little more specific and tell you, remember Peter Strzok, the FBI agent that is famous for texting, POTUS wants to know everything we're doing and about the insurance policy and they're colluding. Well, what you didn't know probably was that Peter Strzok's partner, Pierre K, was the husband of Mike Pence's chief of staff. If you want to look, it's to see why General Flynn was dismissed the way he was. Look no further than Pence. That was Pence who did that. And it was Pence who did a lot more than that behind the scenes against the guy that he was supposedly.
But what they did to Pence is an absolute tragedy. And I will take Tulsi Gabbard in our party any day. She's absolutely amazing. Absolutely, hands down, amazing.
I had to see that for myself, but I have been made a believer.
Yeah.
I wanted to talk to her in Detroit. I tried very hard to maneuver in such a way as to get where she was, to have a conversation, because I'm best when I'm looking someone in the face and having a conversation, to be able to see, are the answers they're giving me genuine, or are they pre-programmed, or what are they, right? Because I did the same thing. I had this conversation with Vivek, and I came away from that conversation with Vivek actually believing Vivek was on the level. Well, I wanted to do the same with Tulsi. Never had the opportunity, but although I never had the opportunity, I've watched the moves that she's made. Yeah. I've watched the things that she said, and I am now a Tulsi Gabbard believer. We would love to have her on the show. I'd love to talk to her.
She would be amazing as head of the VA. She would clean up the VA like you've never seen before. But anyway, great person. But guys, I'm going to have to run. I've got another call coming up here in just a minute. And Eddie, I want to thank you for having me on. And guys, it's up to you. It's up to you, folks. Find one person.
So guys, I wanted to let you know we crossed 5,000 live with you. So it's a great live, Jason. We appreciate you coming on. Guys, I'll say what I say all the time. Jason, hang out for just a second as I close this out. Guys, as I usually say and always will say, the silent majority, you need to stop being silent and stand your ground. We'll see you next time on the Patriots Prayer.
This is the Patriots Prayer Podcast. It's a tremendous show, one of the greatest shows in the history of the world.
This is Bryson Gray, and you are watching the Patriots Prayer.
Soon on the Patriots Prayer Network. Thank you all.
America's falling, they all say. Together